Hi everyone, today I'm going to explain to you about the tariff as if you are a 15-year-old kid. And I have watched through hours and hours of long interview and videos about Donald Trump so that you don't have to. And this is what I found about why they implemented this tariff. First of all, let me explain the tariff that Donald Trump has put up. In order to understand the tariff, you need to know who's his team. And we know Donald Trump being the president is the leader. Next in line is Scott Bessent. Scott Bessent is the Secretary of the Treasury of United States. So he is the finance minister of the country. His background is a hedge fund manager. So he is someone who knows the market more. That is why he is the finance minister. Next in line, there's Stephen Miran. He is the chairman to the economic advisors. Right, so regarding Stephen Miran, because he has wrote a paper on the tariff and the game plan, so I am going to leave this and the paper to the last part of the video. This is the team that were behind the tariff. So in order to understand the tariff, I watched through interviews of all these 3%, which I come out with a conclusion to create this video. Let me tell you the backdrop, the why Donald Trump and his team needed to do this tariff is because of the problem that US is facing right now and for a very long time. Number one being the deficit, or the debt that US has for a very long time. I believe that everybody have seen this debt clock of the US. This number, the debt, has been increasing every second for many years. And right now, the debt is at $36 trillion after accumulating for so many years. And this number is not coming down, which is the scary part. So number two problem is the decline of the US economy. US used to be once a superpower of the world, and they have very strong economy with very strong military. And in turn, it become the world number one superpower, and that is why they have the reserve currency status, because the other country, they feel safe to trade in USD, US dollar, because US is such a powerful nation. So they are okay to buy and sell stuff using the US currency. And US actually abused this reserve currency status by incurring so much debt, which we have seen earlier. And that has caused a problem because Donald Trump and his team, in many interviews, they mentioned that this is not sustainable. And this is a problem because one day it's going to come back to haunt them. And this has to be stopped. And also that the US economy is on a decline for many years right now. Eventually, China is going to overtake them as the number one economy in the whole world. And if that happens, they will not enjoy the reserve currency status. And which in turn, they may have a problem in the future. This could be something like in 10 years or 20 years, nobody knows. But it's a problem of the future, and Donald Trump and his team, they know this. And throughout many interviews, the three of them actually were aligned in this. They mentioned about if they were to continue what they were doing, eventually they will be a weaker nation and their debt will be a problem and they may lose the reserve currency status, which is why they take such a drastic step to come up with the tariff that we are currently having. So that is the backdrop. We see that Scott Bessent recently has come out in an interview to say that he is not too worried about the stock market sell-off because his vision, what he is looking at is over the long term. Because if he were to good policy in place, deregulation and energy security, the market will do great. So he's not looking at the temporary market downturn. Instead, they are looking at the long-term plan of the country. The long-term plan being that they have to fix all these problems that I mentioned so that they can become great again. Something that Scott Bessent has mentioned also, which I find quite funny. So this is what he said. He told the other nation to don't retaliate when Donald Trump put up the tariff, because if they retaliate, there will be escalation, and if they don't retaliate, then this is the high water mark, meaning that this will be the limit. This is all they will suffer from. If I were to translate this into layman term, basically he's telling other nation that, hey, I'm gonna punch you, but you better don't punch me back, because if you don't punch me back, this you will just suffer from bruises. However, if you punch me back, then there will be war between us, and it will escalate, and we will both end up in the hospital. So this is what I translate from. This is what he meant to me, which I find quite funny. In the past history, whenever the country impose a tariff onto other nation is going to fight back. Like if you punch people, people are going to punch you back. So that has been all the while the norm in the past. There's nobody who will, very few people will take your beating without punching you back. Yup, so you know that what is going to happen if the other nations start to punch back on the US, and it's not going to look good. Alright, so if you want to know the game plan of the US, you have to read this paper written by Stephen Miran. Of course, currently now he is the chairman of Council of Economic Advisors for the US. So this paper, he wrote it just a few months before he swear into office. So this is very relevant. And when I read through this, and bear in mind I really read through it, when I read through this, I can see the steps and the plan that US is doing right now. It is all in line. I would say whatever they are doing now, 80% or 80 to 90%, it comes from this paper. And if you want to know more about what the US is doing, I urge you to read this paper as well. Whether or not this game plan is going to work, I cannot comment because this is not my expertise. I would say that only someone who is an expert in economy and someone who specializes in foreign currency exchange would be able to know whether this will work. So for now, my job is not to say whether this will work or not. Yes, my intention of this video is to see where the US is heading to and what are the actions they are likely to take and how we can take advantage of it. So basically this paper is named A User's Guide to Restructuring the Global Trading System, and true enough, Stephen Miran wants to restructure the global trading system so that US comes on top, and China will be taking the bulk of the attack. I would say that after reading through this, this is actually personal opinion. I think that this is a game plan to actually fight China. This is like made for China actually. So if you look through the content, we will see that okay, there's an introduction and they talk about some core economics, this content. So basically chapter 1 and chapter 2 are the introduction and the outline of the game plan. And chapter 3, they talk about tariff, one whole chapter on tariff, because tariff is the main tool that Stephen Miran is using in order for this game plan to work. And first of all, he talked about the inflation that comes with tariff. According to him, he said that tariff is not inflationary. Tariff doesn't comes with the inflation because most of the inflation will be absorbed by the country that is being tariff on. According to him, he said that the country tariff upon will have a currency depreciation, meaning that their purchasing power will be lower, and because of that, this gain in the currency will offset the inflation that US will be taking. So because it offset off the inflation, so there won't be so much inflation. Yep. So that is what is written in this paper. And again, I don't know how true it is. I'm not an economist. If you agree or don't agree with what he wrote, please comment and tell us your thoughts. And then next, he wrote about how to implement the tariff. It's a gradual implementation rather than what Trump is doing right now. Yeah, so according to this paper, US is supposed to give a 2% increase every month on China, and so that it will give them the pressure to negotiate. According to Miran, right, tariff is used as a negotiation tool to negotiate a better deal for currency devaluation. And again, because why they use tariff is because he mentioned that because USD, the US dollar is a reserve currency, and because it is a reserve currency, it is being overvaluated, and that is a burden to the US because USD is so overvaluated that they have a problem selling items or products to other country because their products are too expensive compared to China. According to this paper, it's a two-step process. So tariff is the first step, and the next step is on the currency to devalue the US dollar. So what we are seeing on the news right now is just the step one to implement the tariff. But there is a step two coming, which is to devalue the USD. And it's after the devaluation that this whole plan will work, according to this paper. Of course, I don't know whether it will work or not. From what I understand from this paper, Stephen Miran have written that now because of the tariff, they are going to classify their friends from their foe, and the more friendly country, they will get the lower end of the tariff, which is what is happening now, while the foe, which is obviously talking about China, will get very bad tariff, which is really what is happening right now. And they are going to classify friends, foe, and also neutral trading partners. These three classification. And the reason why they even tariff on their friends is because, according to Stephen Miran, of course, the logic is that whenever the US trade, there is a trade deficit. So because of the trade deficit, USD will be overvalued. Adding on top that USD is a reserve currency, so that is why they couldn't pay down their debts. So that has to change, and he mentioned that the other country need to take, I quote, the burden of the USD as the reserve currency. So that is why they even tariff on the friendly nation, or rather their allies. And even in this paper, and also across many interviews by President Trump and also Stephen Miran and even Scott Bessent, they all say the same thing, that they see China as the greatest threat. So if you ask me, everything they do is really against China. So for example, Scott Bessent has mentioned in an interview that China has relied too much on their trades, and no other country has done it like that before. So that is why China need to negotiate with the US on this tariff. It's like China has no choice but to negotiate a better deal, a lower tariff out of it. So that is according to Scott Bessent. And when I read through all this paper, it's quite a detailed paper, and Stephen Miran even predicted what the Feds will do, what the market may react. All these are written in, like they already anticipated that there may be a major reaction from the stock market, which we have seen. All this is good, but in addition to that, because a lot of this strategy is really put up against China, one thing I found is that actually they didn't really think so much about the reaction from China, how they will react. Like, what if China reacted outside the box? Like, there's no answer to it here. So perhaps they don't really write in this paper or they don't announce it, but they have maybe they have some plans. I do not know. So let me wrap this video up. And overall, honestly, I do not know whether if tariff is the way to go for the US, but I do agree that given the situation, if US is to continue what it has been doing, it will surely be weakened by their weakened economy, and also they will be overtaken by China one day. On the other hand, I don't know if they have seriously looked at the past history on the past tariff and studied it carefully, because there was 2 times that tariff has happened in the US, like across many industry, and those 2 times, both in 1930 and also in 1890, both time ended with a depression. So whether this third time, when tariff is imposed across many industry, will it have the same ending or will it have a turn? I must also add that the previous time in 1930, when Herbert Hoover, the US president back then, when he imposed the tariff, he was about to go to the last step, which is to use the tariff to negotiate a better deal with other country, but he wasn't able to do that because he was assassinated. So hopefully, we get to see whether this tariff really works when Trump gets to use it to negotiate, or whether it won't work. Apart from this video, I've also created another video about why the tariff always end badly, because I look at the past history to find proof in it. I will link the video at the end of this video so you can watch it also. And if you like the video, if this has simplified the whole situation to you, please give me a like and subscribe to it. Whether you agree or don't agree with this video, please comment in the comment box below and let me hear your thoughts. And with that, that is all for today's video. See you.